The war between Israel and Hamas is not over. The Trump framework has officially begun to take shape, and what we are witnessing right now is nothing less than the most serious attempt to end this war in Gaza on Israel's terms, not Hamas's, and that is an important factor. And already, as a direct result of this framework, 20 living hostages have been brought home to their families, and 10 deceased hostages have finally been returned to Israel for burial. But again, it needs to be made very clear that this process is not over, because there are still 18 hostages who were brutally abducted, murdered, and whose bodies were desecrated that are still being held in Gaza, and they have been there for over 740 days, and their families have woken up every single day for over 2 years, not knowing whether their loved ones' remains will ever be found, whether they will ever receive a proper burial, or whether Hamas will continue using them as bargaining chips even after they have died. This is phase 1 of Trump's framework, and phase 1 will not end until every living and deceased hostage is returned home. And that's not an option. That is a condition that is laid out in this peace proposal. That is the standard. Not most hostages, not one, not some, every single one of them. Now, earlier this week, Hamas released only 4 deceased hostages, and in total they have released now 10 bodies so far, which is proof that they could have released all of them earlier, and they chose not to. They deliberately delayed, and they are violating the agreement that they themselves accepted. And now Hamas is trying to falsely claim that they no longer have any more hostages in their possession, despite the fact that Israeli intelligence, international mediators, and even the residents of Gaza know that Hamas is still holding on to those bodies. And it also would have never made sense for Hamas to accept the peace proposal or the 20-point plan, which included them in phase 1 giving back all of the hostages, if they didn't already have all of the hostages. Why would they accept that if they didn't have access or possession of those hostages? To me, it's clearly the case that there are 2 options. One, Hamas never had the hostages and they just said, yeah, we will meet these conditions even though they never could. Or 2, they do have the hostages, which is what all of us assume to be true. They just aren't giving them back. They aren't releasing them. Either way, Hamas is in direct violation of the agreement, and Israel is standing firm, saying that there will be no movement into phase 2 until every last hostage is home, because that was a condition. There will be no moral compromises, there will be no political concessions, and there should be no international pressure on Israel that changes this fact, because Hamas agreed to this. And this proposal was backed by the United States and other nations fully, and right now they are all fully committed to bringing back every single hostage, down to the very last body. And what's happening on the ground is critical for the world to understand, because the IDF has not fully withdrawn. That wasn't part of the proposal. They have repositioned troops according to the framework. So again, it's not a withdrawal, it's a strategic redeployment, because Hamas forces have moved back into certain areas of Gaza and immediately resumed their tyrannical rule. We have multiple reports and video evidence that show Hamas operatives shooting political opponents in the knees, carrying out public executions without trials, and actually a Hamas member was on Reuters the other day saying that those killings are justified, admitting, yeah, we're doing this, and they're just trying to provide some type of excuse as to why it's okay that they're killing their own.